Hello, dear friends. I hope you're doing well today. And now I want to give you a couple of tips about the beginning of using Office 365. So for those who are just starting to use a cloud service, it doesn't have to be Office 365, but in this case, I'll just give you this example. So every time when we start using cloud service, we have to um, either use a default domain, which is not very user-friendly, or we can use our own domains with the service. And when we want to add a domain to the service, Microsoft requires some steps to do. And normally, in order to add a domain, we have to make some DNS changes. So if we can create special records in DNS, it means that domain belongs to us. And this is the idea, the basic idea here. So if you navigate to Office 365 to the Admin Center, here is a step-by-step guide of, how it is done. So if I go here, to admin.microsoft.com and then navigate to Admin Portal, uh, there is a guided setup option, and these are the steps I have to do. First, the suggestion is to install all apps if I have them included in the subscription, because sometimes, apps are not included in the subscription. Then if I click next, right, I have an option to use either a default domain, right? In my case, this is the default domain. It's a domain, and then it has onmicrosoft.com. Or I can have my own domain. Let's say in my case, I want to use this is one of the domains I had, so I select use this domain. And the next thing that happens is sign into GoDaddy and verify the domain. If your domain hosted with GoDaddy, there is some kind of integration with Office 365. It means you just sign into GoDaddy, click verify, and automatic record is created. If you are hosted with a different registrar, it's a little bit more tricky, let me say. So there are a couple of options to verify the domain. The most common option is to create either TXT or a MAX record in the domain DNS. And this is, most of the registrars, they allow creation of these records. So you just have to select, which option, click continue, and then Microsoft will give you the values for these records that you have to put in your so you basically go to your domain registrar and make these modifications, right? So in our case, the record type should be TXT, and then there is a special value that you put, and Microsoft does a lookup, an SLOOKUP on this value. If it finds this record, it means the domain belongs to you, right? This value is not so important, but this one is really important. It has to exist on the domain that belongs to you. And when this record is created, then you click verify, and Microsoft will say, okay, your domain, I validate that the domain belongs to you. So that's pretty much, the basic steps that you have to do in order to verify a domain and start working with Office 365 or with any other cloud provider. The principle will be the same, right? You create a special DNS record on your domain, and then the cloud provider does a NS lookup to check if this value exists. And if this value exists, then you're the owner of the domain. Basically, that works like that. That's the first basic step that you have to do. Then, what I also wanted to show you a small thing here. If we do a public NS lookup, so it means that I just went to this site, DNS checker, or it can be any other site, it doesn't matter. And I put the domain that I already use with Office 365. Let's have a look at, maybe we find something interesting here. So this is an A record. A record, this is just, it maps our domain to a specific server or specific IP address, right? So it means that if I have a website and this website is located on a specific server, this would be the A record here. Then CNAME. CNAME is an alias, so it means that if I have another name for my domain that can be used in some cases, I would have a special CNAME record. In my case, I do not have any CNAME records. Then this MX record. Let's have a look here. So MX record, it has a special TTL, but it's not relevant. The important thing is this one here, right? So if I look at this part right here, you see it shows my domain, and then it goes mail.protection.outlook.com. So this is a mail service of Microsoft, right? Outlook.com, and it goes to this protection. So it's like a filter, so it goes through specific service, like the endpoint where everything gets filtered, right? And then it goes to Outlook.com. So that's a MX record, and this one is responsible for mail delivery. So it is if you have some issues with your MX record or your MX priority is not set properly, you may have some issues with uh, mail delivery, right? Then we have NS servers. Both of them, they point to, I believe these are Microsoft servers, but so if you point your NS servers, so name servers, to Microsoft, right? Then it means that you will modify your records from Office 365. If you point your NS records to another registrar, let's say you have a GoDaddy registrar and the records are there, so you would have to modify all your NS records from control panel of GoDaddy, right? Then we have SRV records, PTR, they are not created. This record is also SOR, and this one, you see, it also points to domain control, and it's probably a Microsoft thing. And one more record which is interesting here is this TXT record, right? And this TXT record, it points to also SPF protection.outlook.com. What's interesting about this record, it's SPF is used to make sure that your domain does not get spoofed. So someone cannot impersonate your domain and say, okay, this message comes from this domain, but in reality it comes from someone else. So this record is really important for when the messages come from your domain, that they get delivered to inbox, that they will not get delivered to spam. Because if this record points somewhere else, if you look here, it's similar to MX record, right? It shows to protection outlook.com, and here is also protection outlook.com. But this one basically tells that I am who I claim to be, something like this in a very simple words. So these are the main records you should be aware of when you are using a cloud service or Office 365 in this case. And I hope this has been helpful to you. So one more time to summarize. In order to start using your own domain with Office 365, you have to have access to your domain registrar. It's very easy if you have GoDaddy. You do not have to use GoDaddy, but it makes it very easy. And then you just basically create a special DNS records with values that Microsoft requests, and then these DNS records you basically you know claim the ownership of this domain for the registrar, and then you can start using it, right? You create users on this domain, you create mailboxes and things like that, right? Of course, to create mailboxes, right, you always have to create a MAX record before, so the mail delivery is done properly. But the first step is to verify your domain. I know this information is not new for many people, but I hope for those who just starting to going into the cloud, that would be useful. So have a wonderful day, stay healthy, and bye bye.